latest details about these midterm elections. Hello, great to see you this morning, Guy. Big hello to you from all of us here at Moscow. I suppose the results are not that much of a surprise, though.
Well, Rory, Republicans have taken control of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. What could this mean for the country and the world in terms of foreign policy? Not much. Even with all the bickering between the two parties when it comes to major foreign policy decisions, they usually support the president, even when they criticize him. That was the case when Congress voted to spend almost $600 million to arm and train the Syrian rebels. Even though there was a lot of criticism of the president's strategy in Syria, as well as concerns about U.S. taxpayer money and arms ending up in the hands of extremists in Syria, Congress has approved the plan anyways, you remember. Now, as far as domestic issues are concerned, the Republicans will most likely be trying to paralyze the president in his decision-making, and to many Americans, this could mean more gridlock in Washington. A Republican win effectively turns the president into a lame duck for the rest of his term. But it doesn't look like the Americans expect much from Congress either. Its approval rating is at 14%. A Gallup poll shows 76% of Americans are dissatisfied with the state of the nation, and nearly half say they're very dissatisfied. But it doesn't look like the dissatisfaction translates into high turnout at this point.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. It is the day after major elections here in the United States, and we have some numbers to go through, some different viewpoints to look at, and basically the Republicans have taken back control of the Senate. It's been, 8 years? We keep control of the Congress, albeit probably they have a stronger hold on Congress. They have a majority, and Bonehead Boyner's been complaining, hey, I don't have the majority, so I can't do much, but now they have it because they control the Senate for the first time since 2006. They wrestled away from the victories from the Democrats as midterm voters expressed frustration with President Barack Obama and the White House. This GOP victory comes after the conservative candidates emerged victorious in Arkansas, Colorado, Montana, South Dakota, North Carolina. That was a good one. West Virginia and Iowa. Iowa was another interesting one. But they were unable to seat many Democratic incumbents. And what does that mean? It means they get control. The Republicans now have 52 seats to the Democrats' 45, and they maintain their advantage in the House, as I said. Now they have the majority, which Boynher has said has been the issue in the past, that he doesn't have the majority, so he cannot do much there. And basically, this was the citizenry rising up, coming out and saying we're tired of the agenda that the Democrats and Obama have been pushing forward. As a result, significant setback, folks. That's what we saw, significant setbacks, especially for the White House, and how they're going to be able to govern their agenda for the next 2 years. Some pundits expressed hope that Congress can work with Obama, which is amazing. Now, I think Harry retweeted out, we get the message, we need to work together. And what's ironic about this is Harry Reid is the one that's been sitting on everything that the Republicans have tried to push through. These two parties cannot work together. They both want their own agendas. And until they learn to come together and work together, we're not going to get anywhere. And you still have the defiant Obama saying, I'm still going to push through my immigration agenda. Work together. And it's amazing that they'll never understand this. They'll never get this. Hence, a lot of people believe we'll just continue to see gridlock. Many of the concerns, according to Gallup, on the exit polls were the handling of the Ebola crisis, immigration, and ISIS were some of the issues that cost the Democratic Party deeply because they just feel like it's been mismanaged by Obama. This is the Uncensored Report. This is Francesco or Frankie Abbruzzino. His agenda or the goal of this show is to educate you on a different viewpoint from that of mainstream media, to inspire you to get out there and to affect change. And that's what I hope to push. I don't expect you to take everything. I don't expect that you're going to believe everything I say and run with it. I expect you to take it, mix it in with all the other information you're receiving out there, and make a solid decision on the direction you want to go on the different issues that are out there. Okay, now this is a one-man show. I do everything from the website to the technical aspects to the show to the hosting and everything, so bear with me. You will see some commercials pop up, and that's just to allow me time to change over and set up for the next segment. If you want to buy off it, that'd be great. Haven't made anything yet. Would love to see some activity on it. So here we go. I did want to talk about, we're not going to talk a lot about the election process and the wins because, look, it's going to be all over mainstream media. You know, Florida, I was surprised. You know, I think I said on the show, I was torn. Do I go with Scott the Republican? Because I did not, and I still do not like Scott or Chris. So what do? I like Wiley. I like his libertarian viewpoints. I didn't like how he was being kept away from the debates and everything else. So, do I vote my conscience? Do I go with Wiley? Or do I vote to keep the party in control, Republicans, and go with Scott? And I was talking to County Commissioner Paul Caragiulo. We were setting up for an interview that I'm going to be doing on my radio show, and he said, hey, you can't do that, Frank. You got to vote Republican. And I said, all right, maybe I will vote Scott. So then I'm walking up to the poll center, and there was a Wiley supporter out there saying, hey, look, this is what the Libertarians bring. This is why you should vote for them. And it got me thinking, and next thing you know, I'm voting Wiley. Because I wanted, my thought process was that Scott will win it. My 2 points won't matter that much for him because my wife was doing whatever I was basically doing. But I wanted to prove a point, and I wanted Wiley to have a strong enough standing so that people can see that there's a third party out there that's active, that's viable, that's being shut out of the major campaign by the two-party system. And that's hopefully what I did. All right, so there were a lot of issues, and these are issues that I am concerned with, and it's the voter fraud and the voter ID fraud. And so one of the biggest voter frauds may be the idea promoted by AG Holder and others that there's no fraud. The laws require voters to have a photo, and Holder's out there saying, calling racism because, hey, you want a photo ID from these people. And basically the thought is that their agenda is to have a bunch of illegal immigrants go in and vote. And they get upset that you want to ask them for a voter ID, which is ridiculous. To get on an airplane, you need a voter ID. To go into a bar and drink a beer, I need my ID. So why is it that Holder has such an issue with people asking these individuals for an ID? There should be some form of validation. And we're seeing right now that, unfortunately, many illegals are voting when they shouldn't be. And, I mean, some of them are they're so flexible with the ID process that come in and just say, show us the electric bill. And that's a form of an ID, which is utterly ridiculous. But, they're out there. He's worried about it, so he sent some people out early, some monitors, and looking for race-based voter suppression. Since blacks and whites have to show an ID, everything from cashing checks to getting on a plane, why is an ID required for voting? Why? It's craziness. But it isn't. This is the part of cynical politics of promoting as much racial polarization and paranoia as possible, folks. And it's all in hopes to get more black voters, more Latino voters to turn out for the Democrats. And nothing is too gross when promoting racial hysteria. And we saw that. We saw that in many of the campaigns. And a lot of the exit polling came out saying that that's impacted the Democrats negatively. The fact that they turned to the racism card. The fact that they made voting for Republicans is a vote for turning our city into Ferguson-type flyers. Look, the Republicans did... And here's some information. The Republicans did win the Civil War. And that's why there is no more slavery in the United States. It was a Republican president who issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It was a Republican-controlled Congress that voted for the 13th Amendment, which outlawed slavery, folks. In the 60s, a higher percentage of Republicans than Democrats voted for the Civil Rights Act of 64. And the Voting Rights Act of 65. If we're going to talk about history, let's get the facts right. And the right is that the Republicans have been more for equality than the Democrats. Only an utter ignorance of history is in this era of dumbed-down education could allow demagogues like Charles Rangel, to get away with absurdities around election year, claiming Republicans are racist. Images of lynching and Jim Crow laws that made blacks sit in the back of the bus are used against Republicans, even though the solid South was solidly controlled by Democrats during that era, not the Republicans. Bull Connor, he's the one that turned police dogs and fire hoses on the civil rights demonstrators, and he was a Democrat. The biggest voter fraud of all is the fraud against black voters by telling them boogeyman stories in order to get them to come out to the elections, like Michelle Obama did yesterday. That was ridiculous. That if you're black, you need to vote Democrat, and then go eat fried chicken, I think she said. Imagine if a white person were to say that. And the most cynical of all these people is this AG, this Holder guy, with threats of legal actions against schools that discipline a disproportionate number of black boys. And unless you believe that black boys cannot possibly be misbehaving more than Asian American girls, what does the political numbers game accomplish, folks? It accomplishes nothing. It creates another racial grievance, allowing Democrats like Holder to pose as rescuers of the blacks from racist dangers. And he's not. He's a race baiter. The real danger is allowing disruptive students in the ghetto schools to destroy education for other black students, which is happening. And in a world where education is the only hope that most ghetto youngsters have for a better life, this is a travesty. A travesty that we're sacrificing these young people's futures in hopes of gaining some additional black votes. And it's cynical and it's fraudulent. And that's the real fraud going on here, folks. The real fraud, the Democrat fraud. You know, one other issue that I had, or one other concern with fraud, is the voting machines. And you saw this throughout the United States, where, take Bexar in Texas, Bexar County. And it shows everyone on the ballot running for governor except the Republican Greg Abbott. And in place of Abbott's name, the voting machine at the First Chinese Baptist Church in San Antonio displayed the outgoing lieutenant governor's name, Dewhurst, instead, who's not even in the race. So this further fuels the concerns about the accuracy of these voting machines. And this is just one of many cases out there, folks. These voting machines unfortunately, when voting machines get the bell right, they can still flip votes due to software issues from tampering. And a good example is in North Carolina. A voter had to make his selection 4 times before the machine he was using recorded his vote correctly. And we're talking about Percy Bostic, 69. He said he'd cast his vote for Democrat Kay Hagan at the courthouse, only to have the machine switch to Tom Tillis. So it's not just a Republican issue that they're having. The Democrats are having the same issue. They went in, they reset this ballot box. The machine continued to cast votes for Democrat parties, which is an election official blamed on calibration errors. And what you don't hear too much about is that these machines can be hacked. They're easily hacked. And we should all have some grave concerns about these electronic voting devices and the accuracy of them, especially after what we saw happen out there in this election cycle, this election go-around. All right, we'll be right back after some words from my radio show, my weekend radio show sponsor at philsgang.com.
Is your money manager giving you safety and security? Wouldn't you like to make your money work harder for you? Then you should consider joining philsgang.com, where thousands of individual investors have successfully profited.
This year I'm up 60% on my portfolio. Following your system has been fantastic. I've been with you for about a month and a half now, and I'm already up 7%.
I've been in the business for a long time, and you're really one of the best I've ever heard.
Well, I just want to let you know what a great teacher you are.
For over a decade, philsgang.com's Phil Grandy and Donald Cogswell have been teaching, coaching, and investing right along with all Phil's Gang members.
I want to thank Donnie for market wrap. I bought 2,500 shares of AUI and sold it this morning made $820 profit.
Why not join thousands of satisfied Phil's Gang customers today? Go to philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264. Call today.
Okay, and we are back. Hold on.
There's really no need to show.
Hold on 1 second. Technical issues. I was getting a video set up as that was running. philsgang.com. He talks live at 9 and 3 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday. He talks about social and economic issues that impact us significantly. He's a guru with the charts, so check out philsgang.com. Sorry for that technical issue, but I was loading up the next issue, which is law enforcement and how they define the referendum on Obama's amnesty as to mean a tidal wave of illegals will start to come across the border. And this the law applies to you and I as citizens, yet it appears that many of the laws that we have out there do not apply to these illegals. And the question to that is why. So you had the top sheriffs come out across the country, and they're warning if Obama succeeds in his plans of an executive amnesty, there will be a flood of new illegal immigrants into America, and that the countries could see the likes of which a country has never seen before in terms of viruses, diseases, gangs, and everything that comes along with a lot of this illegal immigration. And the laws, like I said, the laws seem to apply towards us, myself, you guys out there in the listening audience, but they don't apply to the illegals. Essentially, they're captured and they're let go. It's open season for the cartels. The border is not secure. To give the presidential amnesty would make matters dramatically worse for officers who are trying to do their job the president will not do, which is stop the illegal immigration. And based upon what they've seen, every country in America, every county in America will become a border county with these illegals, folks. And what we're going to see is from the president's action, it's not only the cost of healthcare skyrocketing, social programs skyrocketing, education starting to skyrocket. We've already seen, you might ask, how education? You're sending illegals to school. You're mandated in certain counties and states to have a certain child to teacher ratio. If you don't have it, guess what? You got to hire on more teachers. Education costs go up. But what about the increase in criminals coming into our country? You're going to see that increase in crime, infiltration of gangs, transnational gangs, the drug trade, and human trafficking. Everything that comes with these illegals that will cross the border, folks. We're going to watch a short video. Let's see. We'll get you a full screen. And let's see, make it full. How do I make it full? There we go.
Arizona Sheriff Paul Abbruzzino warned that serious criminals would be released. In fact, he's seen it happen many times. Sheriff, it looks like you were right, but in numbers that we could never fathom. What do you make of this?
Well, this is when February 26th, this is 2013, when we broke this story because they had released hundreds right in my county in Arizona. And when I brought this out because of 5 courageous whistleblowers within ICE, they said I was lying. It went all the way up to the White House, and they knowingly lied. It wasn't me, it was them. And there's 2,228 released in California, Arizona, Texas, and Georgia. And the most troubling part of the story is everybody, now that this has been exposed, that this administration knowingly lied, releasing people, like in my county, 2 that were charged with manslaughter, people who were convicted of child molestation, aggravated assault against police officers, armed robbery. The worst news is we still don't know their names, where they were released to this very moment that we're talking.
All right, so we have no idea what these guys are.
Correct.
So what do we do?
I sent a letter not only to the secretary, this John Morton, who he just had on, that knowingly lied to Congress. All these people have just tried to cover up. I've even asked Senator John McCain. He has promised me to get me these names over a year ago. I need to protect the citizens of my county, and God knows where these individuals are, and they have a greater propensity for recidivism, the return to crime, because they're not even from our country. And they've committed some of the most egregious crimes of murder and armed robbery and assault against a cop. So
Well,
Congress
that
better do
raises
something.
another scary issue, though, Sheriff. You and I chatted about this. If it's true, the administration is hinting that after the midterm elections, it might delay or stop outright millions of deportations, then it is possible that those who have maybe on the land here or running out here could be prevented from being deported here, right?
Correct. And that is the larger issue that the president has already put out, that they have ordered all these green cards and work permits for post-election, 10 plus million, 20 plus million of these green cards to be able to issue to all these people when he's already announced his executive action. So I've called on Congress, please stop this president from unilaterally taking action powers that he have.
I don't know why it would be in anyone's interest, though, sir, trying to give the benefit of the doubt. If you know someone is a dangerous criminal or has anything from burglary to manslaughter on his or her rap sheet, that why it would be in our interest to keep them here anyway. Why would we do that?
Well, this is Obama said these were the worst of the worst that even he wanted to deport. And then they released. Keep in mind, February 26 of 2013, this is when the sequester battle was going on in Congress. And remember, they wanted to turn up the volume of the pain. This was their first move, was to do the most egregious act to scare people. Oh, yeah? Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to release these people. Congress started to inquire about it. Congressman Issa said he promised to hold hearings on this. It was all their intention for a political end result. They wanted to get this budget impasse resolved and force Congress to do whatever the president wanted.
Mike, thank you very much.
Okay, there we go. Hold on one second. Let me shut that down. All right, there we go. There you have it. This sheriff noting his concerns with these illegals that were released with criminal records, some with some bad criminal records, the worst of the worst. And yet, nobody's getting back to this officer with many of his concerns.
The Toyota RAV4 is available with rear cross traffic alert to help detect approaching
I always have these technical issues. You got to love it. All right, real quick, I just noticed, what happens is I have this screen and then I have another one in the background, and I'd like to go over the daily stuff because basically I put this show together at night, come out, I do it in the morning at 9, I upload it at 10, 11 o'clock, it's ready to go for showtime. And between midnight and 9 in the morning, news comes out, so I'd like to just do a brief overview of it with the big monitor that I have behind this little screen that you're watching me on. Some of the stories out there, the InfoWars, Ron Paul coming out saying, hey, basically Hillary soundly rejected, or Rand Paul said that, and a lot of people are saying that. And if you watch all the news shows and all the talking heads, they're saying that this is basically coming out and saying, hey, Hillary, you're going to have a tough road to climb with Benghazi, with a lot of the different issues out there. The issues just go on and on with her. They did a poll, an exit polling, and I think Perry out of Texas had 38%, and he beat, or no, it was higher than that, 83% or something like that. He beat basically Hillary Rodham Clinton in the exit polling. If Republicans had embraced the Tea Party, midterm results would have been even worse for the Democrats. A two-party U.S. political system in reality is a monopoly out of Ron Paul, which I agree. I'm going to love to read that article because that's the biggest thing that's destroying our country and our freedoms, our ability to choose. Is the fact that there really is no freedom, folks. Let's see. The next story that came out is Daily Beast. They're talking about inside the Democrats' god-awful wipeout, how Obama can work with the GOP Senate if he chooses to, inside the Islamic police state. These are all stories some that I'll be covering. Starving with Ebola. This is an interesting story, and they're just talking about how these people are being quarantined. They're starving, and there's no food around. They're starting to poach. I discussed the poaching briefly the other day. And what's funny is I was watching the news, and they said that some guy in Africa came out and said, hey, look, we're seeing a downturn in the numbers in Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Liberia. But that conflicts with what I'm seeing out there in alternative news. And I'm wondering if the mainstream media, if these governments are trying to downplay it so that saying, oh, it's not as bad as you think. And I'm thinking it is still pretty bad over there, especially when you see stories like I ran yesterday where in Sierra Leone, half the population's been wiped out. Or small cities, gone, kaput. Let's see, Breitbart talks about Reid conceding, saying, oh, boy, maybe this means we got to work together. HuffPost freaks out, saying disastrous bloodbath. And they talk about Hillary and some other stuff on there. The WND talks about GOP keeps control of the House. Ted Cruz rips Christians who don't have a vote. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to read and see what Ted's talking about there. GOP names missing at voting machine malfunctions, which is a big issue. Let's see. The explosive election day scandal toss-up states. So nothing really big there. And let's see. CIA warns. The Daily Caller talks about Obama's loss, and Chuck Todd's on there talking about some stuff. Martha Coakley manages to squander massive Democratic advantage in Massachusetts. Huge losses for Obama. The American, he talks about ISIS guns down 50 Sunni men, women, and children in Iraq. Sheriffs warn the Obama about the effects of amnesty for illegals. Probably a little bit of what I just shared for you. IMF boss lobbies U.S. Congress for more money and power. Yeah, let's jump right on that. I could probably start opining about a lot of these issues. Election day, when democracy broke progressive impossible. ISIS introduces price scheming for selling women. All kinds of issues that we'll be discussing tomorrow. For now, let's take another commercial break, and I'll be right back. Check out My Patriot Supply. They got the straw there. That straw is great. I tell you what, folks, you can go out and basically, if we're in a critical situation and there's a massive hurricane, there's no water, guess what? You use these straws, the life straw, out there in the pond, and it cleans out all the water and gets you filtered water. How can you beat it? Check it out. Check the product and much more, and help support the operations at theuncensoredreport.com. Check out My Patriot Supply. They got the straw there. That straw is great. I tell you what, folks, you can go out and basically, if we're in a critical situation and there's a massive hurricane, there's no water, guess what? You use these straws, the life straw, out there in the pond, and it cleans out all the water and gets you filtered water. How can you beat it? Check it out. Check the product and more, and help support the operations at theuncensoredreport.com. Check out My Patriot Supply. Hey, sorry about that. Just running around trying to get stuff up. I love these things because they give me time to go out and do stuff and set up for the program. But then I always run short on time. Let's see. What we're going to be talking about next is Election Day Alert. When democracy was broken, progress possibly impossible? Who knows? Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Yazidis in the face of genocide by ISIS after the U.S. turns away. Why don't we talk about that first, the Yazidis? I showed a film yesterday, and I'm sorry for that technical issue. It didn't really show up on there, but it talked about how many of the Yazidi women, kids, are being sold into slavery. 10-year-olds are being boys are being brought off and killed. And we're talking months after the president stepped in to save these Yazidis from the genocide. You know, we had airstrike. The airstrikes worked some. They slowed to a trickle now, though. Their supplies is starting to dry up there that we had dropped. And ISIS is closing in on Mount Sinjar once again. That's the mount that we scared them away from. We scared them away because in August, Obama came in. He intervened to stop what he called the pending genocide of the Yazidi minorities in Iraq. Now the U.S. is gone. I don't understand why we do that. We go in, we try to stop something, we stop it, and then we leave, and we don't have any follow-up plan. So now we go back to these Yazidis. There's thousands that are stranded again and starving on this mountain. Many more, thousands more, are being sold off into slavery by ISIS, like I covered yesterday. You know, when Obama came in, he announced this airstrike in Iraq in early August. He said the mission was twofold: to protect the personnel in Erbil and to save the ethnic Yazidis from ISIS. They fled their villages and they were chased by ISIS and stranded on the mountain with no food, no supplies, no protection. People are starving. Children are dying of thirst. Meanwhile, ISIS forces below have called for the systematic destruction of the entire Yazidi people, which is genocide, folks. And they've shown how they have no problem executing them, selling them into slavery, raping them. It's utter craziness. That's why I said we need a Christian crusade against these ISIS people. International airstrikes, humanitarian airdrops somewhat alleviated the crisis, but opened up an escape corridor for Yazidis to flee, and they fled. But now they're surrounded again. They're calling the number somewhere around 10,000. I don't know if it's that high. But they're taking Yazidi villages, ISIS is, near the mountain, one after another, killing men and selling the women and children into slave trade. And I mentioned they got a new scheme, a new pricing scheme for the slave trade. You know, they say that the hostage children and women come to between 4,000 and 5,000 of them, captured by the ISIS and sent to other areas as slaves. In Mosul, they opened a market to sell these Yazidi girls. Some of them ended up in Fallujah. Some of them were taken to Saudi Arabia and Raqqa in Syria. Even humanitarian airdrops have halted. The Iraq government provided 2 helicopters to deliver the aid, but they are old and fly only once or twice a week, which isn't really helping out at all. Obama promised that they're not going to let the Yazidis get any more land and that they're not going to let them get any more genocide on the Yazidis. But this is all gone. It's going to the worst. It's gotten worse than since August. For the Yazidis, this ISIS attack is only the latest in a long history of Sunni Iraqi attempts to drive them out of their land, extinguish them. Genocide, folks. You know, and the Yazidis, they blame several parties for their plight. They blame the government of Iraq for not protecting them, which they should have been. The Kurd forces for fleeing Mount Sinjar without fighting. But who's to blame them? They didn't have the tools to fight ISIS. And they blame the U.S. for starting the war against ISIS, then appearing to lose interest in coming out and protecting them. Which, I got to agree, we've done that. So my heart goes out to them. What are we going to do about these Yazidis? Isn't that why we're over there bombing now, folks? And if that's the reason, why aren't we doing anything now? Interesting thoughts. But now, you know, back with these elections. When elections are not democratic, and we're talking mostly about the election process here, and do the populist discussions become superficial? When democracy becomes numb to the desires of the citizens, and the political campaigns become sporting events for television pundits, the ballot box, I can't speak today, becomes a sad expression of the populist will. And it's sad. It's sad that our society has come to that. Because if you don't have a responsive democracy, all the debates aren't really debates, are they? What's essential for Americans to recognize on Election Day is that the confronting this reality is disempowerment is not something to avoid, but the key to achieving real progressive change so many desperately desire, folks. So many desperately desire. If we don't have a responsive democracy, all the debates about charter schools, fracking, high-stakes testing, militarization of the police, they aren't really debates. When elections are not democratic, even the most populist discussions become superficial, disconnected from real power. They're all theater. And the key reason for this disconnect, this disempowerment, is clear. The massive amount of money that's flooding the elections. And the key to fixing public finance is free politics from big money. Get rid of this two-party system. There's astronomical levels of campaign spending out there, and we got to stop it. Private campaign spending has given nearly unprecedented power to large corporations and wealthy individuals that control them to sway policies and control the debates, folks. And because so much of the campaign spending is driven by advertising dollars, the media system itself has a large financial incentive to maintain the status quo. In banking, energy, gas, cable, agriculture, you have a limited number of companies that have accumulated so much power they are acting as kind of a shadow government, controlling the policies and vetoing laws before they can even be presented. And, candidates are out there and they refuse to stomp and talk about cable TV mergers because they're afraid to get shut up by the MSNBCs. They don't take on big banks because the big banks have become too big to fail, too big to gel, and even debate about policy. And so what's our solution? Do we fight back? Populist movements made by candidates and protests are in clear demand. But are they the key to success? Are they the key to reforming the state of American democracy? Is an effort that will have to take place not even within the confined boundaries of the current system, but one that challenges these institutions from outside and below. We need to continue to challenge them, folks. We need third parties, fourth parties, fifth parties, independent parties. We need them out there to control and challenge these political system, the two-party system that's out there. All right, we'll be right back after this short message. Get some of this great apparel from theroguegrant.com or the Uncensored Report or thevintagescoop.com. We have hats, shirts, coffee mugs. They say educate, inspire, and change. Or for my Scoop fans, it'll say the Vintage Scoop, Sarasota Scoop, etc. Help me with this operation so I can continue to get a fresh perspective on the news out to the masses. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Just go to my website and click on the icon. Okay, I did want to play this one video, and what it is it's a correction officer. He's guarding an abandoned prison. Some people believe it's a FEMA camp that's been uncovered, and it's I don't know what the truth is behind it, but it's interesting how the great lengths that this guard is going to go to stop any filming of this supposedly abandoned prison. And it just happened out of circumstance. The guy wasn't really there to film the prison. So we'll take a quick look. It's only a couple minutes long. Hold on.
Threatened with arrest today. It happened as they were working on a story about the historic cottage in Wilton where President Ulysses S. Grant spent his final days.
Grant's cottage is located on Mount McGregor near the now closed correctional facility. Corrections employees who are still working at the empty prison made every attempt to stop Mark Mulholland from doing his job. And Mark shows us what happened now live from our Saratoga newsroom. Good evening, Mark.
Well, good evening, Jim and Benita. In more than 20 years in the business, I've rarely encountered anything quite like this. We were doing a story on Grant's cottage, but some corrections employees made their actions the story. Grant's cottage is located at the top of Mount McGregor. Just yesterday was the 129th anniversary of the death here of President Ulysses S. Grant. We shot some of the reenactment Wednesday and were assigned to go back there today to get some additional shots. We were doing a piece on camera in the shadows of the empty Mount McGregor prison when a car comes speeding toward us.
Oh, hey, someone's coming fast. Watch that.
This is the exchange photographer Matt Soriano and I had with a man who identified himself as a corrections lieutenant.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Don't film me.
We're doing a story about Grant's cottage.
Doesn't matter. You're on state property right now. You can't film here. You got to get the permission through Albany to film.
Okay, we can go shoot it from Grant's cottage then.
No, you're not up here for that. You're up here for different purposes.
We're doing a story on Grant's cottage as it relates to the prison.
Well, you'll have to take
closing.
that through Albany.
No, we'll just go back to Grant's cottage and shoot it.
No, you're going to leave the mountain now.
No, we're going to go to Grant's cottage.
No, you're not.
You're rolling, right?
Yeah.
You're telling us we can't visit a historic site?
No, you're not. You're going to run that through Albany.
No, we don't run through Albany whether we visit a
You're on
historic
state
site.
grounds right now.
Well, we'll go to the historic site.
You can go up there. You can't film.
Oh, yes, we can.
No.
Yes, we can. What's your name?
Lieutenant Doran.
Lieutenant what, Doran? What's your first name?
It's Lieutenant Doran. Look, I'm not going to go around with you on this. You're going to leave the property.
We will. We'll go up to the historic site.
You cannot film up there.
We will go to the historic site and do our job.
You know what? Jeff, make sure they don't go up. I'm going to call the state police and have them removed.
Have us removed from a historic site, sir? So we proceeded to make our way closer to Grant's cottage, but another corrections employee parked his car across the road, denying and blocking our access to the historic site. So we're trying to get to Grant's cottage, and the state corrections officer is blocking the road. So you can see how this might deter people from trying to get to a prominent national historic site.
Can you move up a little so we can get to Grant's cottage, please?
After several minutes, he moves his car to allow other visitors to get to and from Grant's cottage and slowly inching his car along in front of us. Ironically, once there, we noticed a film crew apparently filming a movie on the grounds of the closed prison. On our way back down the mountain as we attempted to leave, Corrections Lieutenant Doran had called the state police, asked them to detain us, and demanded our video.
He's obviously leaving. I mean, you can't leave with that film.
Can't leave with what? I'm sorry?
Can't leave with the film of the jail.
If I'm a member of the public and I'm taking pictures of Grant's Cottage and there is the facility in right behind it, what do you do in that case?
We're aware that facility's in the background. Those photos will be confiscated.
The man who identified himself as Lieutenant Doran.
Okay, I just thought it was interesting because a lot of people are wondering if a lot of the conspiracies were out there is that this is some type of female camp. But it's interesting that it's an abandoned facility. You got this guard out there, and he goes to such great lengths that he doesn't even want you filming the outside of it. He won't even let this news crew go over to this historical site. So, just interesting video footage out there that I thought I would share. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about that two-party system. We keep pinning it up. Our parties are shrinking because each in its own way, can't come up to terms with decentralization. But it's real. And is this going to bury that two-party system? Is it safe to say by the end of today, a large chunk of Americans will be bitterly disappointed? They'll start to see the election results come in. They'll wake up this morning. They'll see that Scott's still governor in Florida. They'll see that the Republicans have control of the Senate now. But there's a much bigger truth out there that Republicans and Democrats must face up to. And neither party, as currently constituted, has a real future. And we're seeing that more with a lot of these independent parties out there. Fewer and fewer Americans identify as either Republican or Democrat. I know I don't. I'm listed as an independent. And it somewhat sucks sometimes, folks, because when you go to the primaries and you vote, let's say the Republicans. Here's the actual scenario here. We have a state representative that represents our area, and when you go to the primary, the Republicans can only vote for the Republicans, and Democrats for the Democrats. They vote for whoever they want to represent them at the general election. The independents have no say in that matter. And in this case, Julio Gonzalez, who I like a lot, he's a good guy. I'm glad he won. He's the one I would have gone with. He is the Republican. There was no Democrat candidate. So the Republicans essentially determined who was going to represent my area of Venice, Northport, Inglewood, at the state capitol. And I never had any say in it. Now, his name was put on the general election card, but his candidate was write-in. And it was some weird guy, Kaplan. God, the guy's weird. He was freaking me out. But that's what's upsetting, and it's disturbing many Americans. And when you look at these two parties, each party has recently had a clear shot at implementing its vision of a good society. If you want to drive down your adversary's approval rating, just give him the reins of power for a few years. Right now, we're down on the Democrats. Guarantee you in 6 years, the Republicans won't be in good favor with us. So what's going on out there? And the short version is that political, cultural, and even economic power has been decentralizing and unraveling for a long time. And whether you like it or not, there's a libertarian movement. The libertarian movement is here. And it's a good thing. The signal characteristic of past several decades of American life has been the ways in which all sorts of decision-making have been pushed outwards to individuals or end users in whatever system you want to gin up. Traditional authorities in social institutions such as churches wield less control. Our world is, in so many ways, more based on a voluntary exchange than ever before. We've got more ways of exiting a given situation and giving voice to criticism too. The libertarians in particular. This isn't news, and is cause for celebrations. And I'm glad to see they're catching up. I'm glad to see that people are now starting to notice that there's a need. And that's one of the reasons why I essentially voted for Wiley, was to bring the attention to the people, the Libertarian Party that was shut out of the elections. For liberals, it's always 1965. Social justice is just one mega entitlement program away from arriving. With the conservative, it's always 1980, and the next tax cut will solve the problems forever. And each side can appreciate some, but not all aspects of decentralization. Conservatives and Republicans can embrace it when it applies to some economic issues and to things like school choice, but they can't abide by the profusion of sexual and cultural identities. Liberals and Democrats may be more comfortable with some sort of ladder, but then they want tighter and tighter controls. They want limits of all sorts of commercial transactions. In a world where you can personalize and individualize your online experience, your clothing, your work situation, even your sexuality, why would anyone join up for ossified, rigid, centuries-old groups like the Democrats or Republicans? And that's why the future of politics and policies doesn't belong to doctrinaire Democrats and Republicans who want to control large swaths of everyday life. It belongs ultimately to the libertarian decentralists, such as Ron Paul, Wiley, who not only understand what is happening to America, but are growing comfortable with it. Many Americans are weary of government power, especially in the last 6 years. It's gotten out of control. And they don't want to teach a single set of morals either. People just want a government that will keep people from starving on the streets and get out of the way as they go around the corner to the pot shop to buy edibles. Politicians and parties who champion policies that embrace economic and social decentralization will own the future, I think, folks. I think they will. Even as they will power by letting people discover how they actually want to live. Whoever wins, the people that won last night would do well to remember decentralization. Will do well to remember, don't stick along the party lines. Think and act according to what the people want. What do you think about that, folks? Let me see. We were going to talk. Yeah, we're going to talk about this in a minute. Let me take a break. We could set up, and we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about Obamacare. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Hey, everybody. Have you thought about fluoride, how it's dumbing us down? Why don't you give Fluoride Shield a try? Or how about Survival Shield to help you get the iodine that's been taken out of our salts? Give both of these products a try. Just go to theroguerat.com or the uncensoredreport.com. Click on my shop area and click on the InfoWars icon. It'll give credit to the operation and help us continue to get the message out there. Have a great day. Okay, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Obamacare. You know, I've covered it extensively over the last few days, and I think Obamacare is one of the focus points, one of the issues that the Democrats ran into. You know, the whole not reading the bill, and now we're starting to see many issues evolve. Many of this stuff, like Obama wanted to put price controls down. He didn't want to get the pricing out there to the public prior to the election. You're losing many doctors. Many doctors are leaving. Many people are being kicked off their plans. If you don't have birth control and you're 60, well, hey, that's your problem. It's mandated by Obamacare, so you're getting kicked off your plan. You got to go out and get another plan that's going to pay a higher premium. Our costs are definitely going up. The people that did not have insurance that are now getting insurance, and which is a good thing. The problem is it's basically Obamacare programs are essentially Medicaid, which it was out there before, and it's draining the public. This whole thing has just been a mess. It's been a killer for the Democratic Party. I think it has been. And, you know, they're coming out, and this one report says the majority of last year's Obama customers won't even return. And they won't return because of what? Because of purchasing their coverage again in 2015 is going to be a pain in the butt. 51% of the people on the survey last year, Obamacare exchange customers, don't plan to purchase at all. And those who earn less and receive high premium subsidies were more likely to renew their plans. So the majority of them aren't going to return. And so if you look at the 7 million that bought into it, they say about 50% paid their premiums. So let's say 3.5. Half of them are going to return. That's 1.75. That's not a good number, folks. It's basically the higher premiums that are keeping people away. 43% said the high insurance rates are biggest concern for buying into Obamacare, even after the subsidies. The fact that many doctors will not take your coverage. The many limitations that are out there. And I could go on, and I think I've covered in the past few days, but I think that was one of the key points. I think Obamacare killed the Democrats. I think this whole illegal immigration killed the Democrats. And I think the out-of-control government, the welfare state that we've been into. What's the other issue that I think impacted them? God, there was one other issue. And I can't remember it. All right. But that's been our show for today. I have to go record my Saturday show in a little bit here. So, make back to the program every day, Monday through Friday at 11 to 12. I do have my Saturday show at 12. That's at thescoopradioshow.com or on this page, the uncensoredreport.com. I bring up local issues, but I give it a national perspective. So even if you are one of my many fans that are in New York, Detroit, or whatever, I think you still will enjoy that hour-long show. A lot of commercials, not a fan of that, but hey, I'm working for the radio station on that one, so what are you going to do about it? All right, this has been Frankie. Everybody have a great night.